And we are live. How y'all doing today, CashSports? I am glad to be back here once again, right here in front of y'all, live streaming, as I said before, for you guys to talk about the latest topics, the hottest trends, what is going on today, and I'm here to talk about it. So before we get into that, once again, please like and subscribe to CashSports Podcast. I would graciously appreciate it. Also, if you notice that Cash App at the bottom, please donate whatever you can. Once again, it is optional, so you don't have to. But anything I receive here would be back into the channel because I only want to grow. I only want to get this, bigger and better. I want to have a bigger platform so you guys can come here and talk just like I do on this platform. Just to give you guys a little summary of what I do on here. It's more or less like barbershop talks. Anybody can really just hop on here. I'm gonna put the link in the comment section right now, by the way. Boom. So anybody who wants to tap in, who wants to join the conversation, just go into the chat, go into the comment section, hit that link, and you already know what it is. So the first thing I want to talk about today is going to be the NBA. We're going to be talking about some NBA today. I know I've been talking some football the past couple times. So I do want to talk about basketball because it has been some news lately as it pertains to Kevin Durant staying on the Brooklyn Nets. Yes, it is official. There's so much going back and forth after so much gossip, right, and drama and the grittiness, the soap opera behind the scenes. Kevin Durant has finally came out, or the Brooklyn Nets, because there was a statement that was dropped by general manager Sean Marks. He ultimately came out and said that the partnership between Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets will be moving forward here on out. Right? So, for all you sports bettors out there, I want to let you guys know Kevin Durant, after he requested his trade, the Brooklyn Nets were a 50-1 odds of winning the NBA Finals. Now that the Brooklyn Nets are continuing their partnership with Kevin Durant, they now are under 20. I believe it's 18-1. The Brooklyn Nets are now one of the favorite teams to win the NBA Finals. So what does this mean? I'm going to tell you from my end. I was saying, from my perspective, if I was Sean Marks or Joe Tsai, Kevin Durant ain't going nowhere. Kevin Durant is staying on the Brooklyn Nets. I already said it before. Kevin Durant is staying. They signed Kevin Durant to a four-year, $198 million contract extension. So they got him for the next 4 years. He's tied down. And so, from Kevin Durant's end, right? Going into the season, we already know about everything that had happened within the organization. From the rip, things were starting to get out of control. Things were spiraling out of control. The season started off with James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. The Brooklyn Nets were favored to win the championship just like this year. But past 2 years, or even this year, the previous year that just passed, the Nets were one of the teams, along with the Los Angeles Lakers, to win the finals. But we know that did not happen because the Brooklyn Nets got swept in the first round of the playoffs. Right? So there was a lot of disappointment on the Nets' end. They weren't even the same roster. They weren't even the same team when they started playing in the playoffs. James Harden was not there. He was playing for the Philadelphia 76ers. And so throughout the season, there was a lot of up and downs. There was even a losing streak. I believe the Brooklyn Nets had lost 13 straight games during the season. And then Kyrie Irving had missed a majority of the season due to the fact that he was not willing to get the vaccine, which is understandable. I understand. Do I agree with it? No, absolutely not. And I'm not speaking from the vaccine standpoint. Hey, that's everybody's opinion. But when you play on the team, especially a team that has championship aspirations, you need to commit. You can't think about yourself. You have to think of the team as a collective. Remember, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving came to the Brooklyn Nets together. The Nets did not want Kyrie Irving unless they were getting Kevin Durant. Right? So it was a package deal. So on Kevin Durant's end, he was feeling betrayed. He was feeling hurt. And not to mention the fact that James Harden left also. James Harden went to the 76ers. It was supposed to be all three of them, and we barely seen them play. And then now that James Harden is gone, you have Ben Simmons, right? He was going through his own trials and tribulations with the Philadelphia 76ers. You know, we all know about the story with Ben Simmons, right? Barely shooting the ball. He had that big playoff game against the Atlanta Hawks where he had one of the worst free throw shooting line percentages in NBA history. Yes, I said it. Ben Simmons in the playoffs had the worst free throw percentage in NBA history. Right? So, Ben Simmons, there was a lot of back and forth with the Sixers. Ben Simmons wanted to get traded. Same ordeal. Same situation as Kevin Durant. Ben Simmons had signed a new deal. But unfortunately, he did not want to play for Doc Rivers and the 76ers anymore. And so what does he do? He requests a trade just like Kevin Durant. And boy, was a battle with Ben Simmons. Back and forth. Ben Simmons was standing firm on what he believed in. He did not want to play for the Sixers no more. Said that playing between him and Joel Embiid had ran its course. That's what came out on the news. They said it, not me. Right? And then so James Harden, Kevin Durant in the midst of the season, gets hurt. Kyrie Irving is still not playing. So James Harden was very displeased with what was going on with the Brooklyn Nets. You had one player that wasn't there because he's injury prone, and Kevin Durant. It's just fair to say Kevin Durant is, to a degree. And then you have another player who chooses not to play in regards to certain stimulations that applied in the city that you play in. Right? So James Harden, he's furious. He's angry. He doesn't want to be here anymore. His words, doesn't want to be there. So he gets traded. So now the Nets are a completely new team. They get Seth Curry. They get Ben Simmons. They got some valuable pieces in return. But it wasn't enough for the Brooklyn Nets. It just wasn't enough. Because they got swept by the Boston Celtics, who are an emerging team with a young core. Jayson Tatum, who is all team or all NBA first team for the first time in his career. The Celtics had went to the finals since the time they went against Kobe Bryant in the finals. And so I was saying, at that point in the first round, if the Celtics had beaten the Nets, sorry. So if the Celtics had beaten the Nets in that first round, I knew they were going to the finals. I knew it. The Nets were a good enough team to go to the finals, but they didn't have the chemistry. They didn't have the playing time together. They didn't have that time spent together. And I simply thought at that moment, or I kind of still do, that Steve Nash is simply just not that level of experience at the head coaching position to be coaching players like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And so I'm adamant about it. I'm in the same boat with anybody who feels the same way. And then so now with this loss, right, with the Nets in the playoffs, just got swept. There's a lot of questions as to what the Brooklyn Nets are going to do this offseason. One of the biggest questions is Kyrie Irving, who's on the last deal of his contract with a player option, set to receive over $30 million his last year. There were trade talks as to whether Kyrie Irving was going to stay on the Brooklyn Nets or get traded or play for the Los Angeles Lakers. Would have been great to see Kyrie Irving and LeBron James reunited in the city of Angels, but it did not happen. Kyrie Irving opted into his player option, and Kevin Durant is still on contract, as we know. And then so Kyrie Irving is essentially playing for his long-term deal, because this is the result of what had happened in the past. Kyrie Irving tried to play the field, tried to test the waters, tried to see if he had leverage, and unfortunately not. Kyrie Irving tried to test the free agent market and realized that he was not the valuable commodity that he thought he was. And it's not based off his play, but strictly based off his absence, his presence. I mean, we already know this. We already know. And then so after Kyrie Irving had a failed attempt at free agency, he opts into his deal. And then shortly after, Kevin Durant requests a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. We are wild. We don't know what to say. Everybody's flipping tables. What's going on here? And then so you had teams gunning for Kevin Durant, trying to put out the best offer that they can. Teams like the Suns and the Heat were favorite teams by Kevin Durant. You even have teams that were brought out there like the Warriors, who could have potentially traded their young core for Kevin Durant. Right? Then even the Boston Celtics were in the fray, willing to give up some of their pieces in their young core, like Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown, and even Robert Williams and Derek White, willing to give up their young core, their young pieces, for Kevin Durant. But the Nets were simply not getting the offers that they had thought were reputable for Kevin Durant, which is understandable. I agree. There is simply not enough. There is no amount of talent in the world that would complement the trade for Kevin Durant. You would have to get future talent. You would have to get a really young player that you know would be a very valuable asset in the future. Like the Raptors. Raptors were in the fray also, but they were not willing to give up Scotty Barnes. They weren't, which is a prime example of why that trade didn't fall through. The Phoenix Suns were not willing to give up either DeAndre Ayton or Devin Booker, because that is the point. Why would I trade for Kevin Durant if I have to give up the pieces that I would want him to play with via Devin Booker or DeAndre Ayton, or even with the Heat with Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler? So the trades didn't fall through. Nothing seemed to go. And then so we get news with Kevin Durant having a meeting in London to meet with the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, Joe Tsai. And when we hear about this, Kevin Durant, he's chilling. He's with his boy, James Harden, up in London, having a great time with Travis Scott. Popping champagne. Living it up. And then so Kevin Durant puts out an ultimatum that you have to choose between me or Steve Nash and Sean Marks. We could not believe it. Kevin Durant was getting feisty. But guess what? Joe Tsai came out and he issued the support for not only his franchise, but for his staff and Steve Nash and Sean Marks. And so as a week went by, another meeting went on between the Brooklyn Nets and Kevin Durant. And then that's when it came out. Kevin Durant would stay with the Brooklyn Nets. I know I went through the whole story, but I had to give it to you. I had to run the whole thing up. And so that's what brought us to this point. Now the Nets are a championship caliber team, and they're ready to make a big statement. Because forget about the past, forget about the trade, forget about everything else. This is the Nets' best opportunity to win a championship. But I hope they can get through the holes, all the obstacles that they got in. Because how do you get back into playing for this team? And I mean Kevin Durant. How can you get back to playing on this team when you just called out your GM and the head coach? Bump the GM though, because you don't even got to see the GM. The GM don't even need to. He don't even need to be by you. You don't even have to smell the GM. You gotta be near the GM, by the GM. GM's the GM. They're front office. They can be in their office. But what's very relevant and the key to the Brooklyn Nets' success is if Kevin Durant and Steve Nash can get back on the same page. And not only Kevin Durant, because remember, Kevin Durant had worked with Steve Nash in the past, previously, on the Golden State Warriors, which is the reason why they hired Steve Nash in the first place. So it's not Kevin Durant that I don't fear is not going to come back into the fold, but that is something we have to pay attention to. But another key component, of course, is Kyrie Irving. We already know that man Kyrie is a rude boy. Got no respect for that man, Steve Nash. Says, I'll take your job. Says they don't need a coach. Right? It sounds like you need a coach more than ever. Honestly, it doesn't even sound like it. It looks like it. Y'all need a coach. And unfortunately, in this circumstance, you guys are stuck with Steve Nash. Good and bad. Now, Steve Nash is a young coach in training, technically. When I mean that, is that he is still trying to become, or he's still trying to create his own coaching style. Find something that suits him. Find his own rhythm. He's dealing with a lot here. At least I'll admit that. It's a lot. With the players, the media. Steve Nash is Canadian. He's playing in Brooklyn, New York. In New York City, one of the biggest media markets in the world. And so the Brooklyn Nets are stuck with Steve Nash. So fact of the matter is, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant need to get it together. They need to be on the same page with Steve Nash. And Ben Simmons needs to shoot jump shots. Come on now. Let's get this over with. Real talk. Ben Simmons shoot some effing jump shots, bro. Like, come on, keep it real now. We ain't going. This should not. We don't want to see those gym jump shots anymore. You practicing with people we don't know, with a white tee, pulling up and jumping, talking about I can make jump shots. I just don't shoot them. BS. If you don't shoot them, you can't shoot them. That's how I look at it. If you don't shoot, you can't shoot. Point blank, period. I can't shoot, but I shoot. I admit to not being able to shoot. Even though I am practicing here and there. I'm trying to get a little better with my stroke. But come on now, a professional athlete, you're not shooting in the fourth quarter. Now, by all means, you are playing with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, so you don't need to pull those jumpers. But you do not want to be in a situation in the playoffs where it is 5 against 4. So you gotta test the waters. You gotta step up, man. Don't be the outlier. Do the best you can on the defensive end, on the offensive end. I know he can do his thing on the defensive end. He could potentially win a Defensive Player of the Year in his career. We know it. We know what type of player Ben Simmons is. But he is the X factor on this team. And this is what's just going to make this whole thing with the Nets interesting. It's not about the personnel. At least on the team, anyway. Everything has to fall into place. Because we know personnel-wise, they could do it. They got the players to win. Kevin Durant's locked in. We know he's going to ball. We know Kyrie is going to ball. Is he going to be there, though? Is he going to clock in? We don't know. We don't know yet. But everything has to fall into place. And so that's my take on the Brooklyn Nets. So anybody that's tuned in, please like and subscribe to Cash Sports. I would graciously appreciate it. Y'all see that Cash App at the bottom. Please donate if you choose. It is optional. Right? But anything that I got, I'm giving it back here. Not to you guys personally, but I'm going to build this platform more and more every single day. Just watch, stay tuned. That's why I said donating is optional, because the more and more y'all stay tuned, y'all gonna see, hey, I'm doing what I can. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which is sitting here and talking to you guys about what's trending, right? So the next topic I want to get into now is Jayson Tatum. So I don't know if you guys heard about the situation with Jayson Tatum, but apparently, Jayson Tatum had an interview with Bleacher Report, and it came out that Jayson Tatum had a fractured wrist when he was playing in the finals. Right? So, this means that Jayson Tatum was not fully healthy when they were playing against the Golden State Warriors. So what does this mean? The famous question. What does this mean? Does this take away from the Warriors in their championship? Is there an asterisk next to the Warriors championship? Absolutely not. Ain't no way in hell. The Celtics can put out anything they want. Anything. But you're not going to discredit this year's Warriors championship. It was well earned. They were injured just like everybody else. When it comes to winning a championship, a part of it is luck. A part of it is chemistry. A part of it is grit, effort, and just the team collective. They had everything else. The Celtics had everything else except for that one minor thing. Injuries. I do think the fact that Jayson Tatum coming out and talking about his injury does give a little insight as to what was happening in his game. You know, because after the finals had occurred, things that we were talking about were Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Who would we rather have on our team? They were saying Jaylen Brown had better stats than Jayson Tatum. Jaylen Brown down the road could be better than Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum had over 100 turnovers in this postseason alone. But despite all that, despite having a fractured wrist, this man, Jayson Tatum, managed to win the first Eastern Conference Finals MVP, the Larry Bird Award. Managed to be all NBA first team for the first time in his career. Managed to go to an NBA Finals for the first time in his career. And so, he did all this with a broken wrist, but in the end still lost to the Golden State Warriors. But you got to give credit to where credit is due. Man balled his heart out. Did what he can. I mean, if we were looking at some of the jump shots that Jayson Tatum was shooting, the shot selection, it just seemed off. It just didn't seem like Jayson Tatum was on his A game. And so we can understand how frustrating that can be. I mean, just as fans, you're watching the game and you're hoping that your team can get through the thick of things, hopefully be able to contend and win a championship. But unfortunately, things like this occur. Injuries happen. And so with Jayson Tatum, I have no doubt in my mind that Jayson Tatum will eventually be back in the NBA championship. I don't know about when now. I do believe he can win one because I do think he's that great. But he will be back in the NBA Finals. That I can say for sure. But it is extremely unfortunate that Jayson Tatum did get hurt. And let me be clear. he had said that he had gotten injured against the Atlanta Falcons in February. It was a mighty long time ago. And didn't manage to get checked until a week before the playoffs. I know. Sorry, Boston fans. Seems like you're gonna have to just get it next year. So, man, sad thing, right? So, but let me see if anybody wants to tap in. So before I do that, you know what? Let me give some betting odds, because you already know this is CashSports. We got to give a little something for y'all, man. We do. So I know we were talking about the Nets here for a little bit. Let me just tap into their betting odds after Kevin Durant withdraws his trade request. I know I brought it up before. I did. But let me just give you the exact numbers for those that might place their bets on other platforms, or that might want to, if you get it from anywhere else, right? So let's pull this up, right? Okay, right? So here we are. So this is Bleacher Report, right? Shout out to Bleacher Report. Always got to give credit to what credit is due. Joseph Zucker, right? Read it at the top. Nets updated 2023 NBA championship odds after Kevin Durant withdraws trade request. So you go down, right? Like I stated earlier, see, I be doing my research. I don't just be telling y'all BS now. The following statement has been released by General Manager Sean Marks, Steve Nash, and I, together with Joe Tsai and Clara Wu Tsai, met with Kevin Durant and Rich Kleiman in Los Angeles yesterday. We have agreed to move forward with our partnership. We are focusing on basketball with one collective goal in mind: build a lasting franchise to bring a championship to Brooklyn. There you go. You heard it here first, straight from the source, right? Bleacher Report, man. If y'all ain't got that, get Bleacher Report, man, so y'all can get these updates on these sports alerts, man. I have it just like everybody else. So if you guys want these updates just like I do, I have a bunch of subscriptions to all these sports stuff, man. So but Bleacher Report is definitely A1, so definitely tap into that, sure. All right, so we scroll down a little bit. With Kevin Durant staying in Brooklyn, the Nets are plus 750 at FanDuel to win the 2023 NBA championship, right? So if you guys are on FanDuel, if you place a bet on the Brooklyn Nets, you will have a 750 chance of the Brooklyn Nets winning the championship. Plus 750, right? Let me tap in. And then other teams. Let's tap into some other teams too. So the Boston Celtics, right? They still have higher odds, right? The Boston Celtics are plus 480. Milwaukee Bucks are plus 600. And the Clippers are plus 700. Warriors are plus 700. All have better title odds than the Brooklyn Nets. And honestly, I think the only reason why these teams have better odds is because these teams have chemistry. They've played together. They don't have all this BS, circling around about what's going on during the offseason. These teams are locked in. These teams are ready to play. Right? Boston Celtics, we already know what they're made of. Milwaukee Bucks, hey, don't be surprised if the Bucks can take it again this year, right? Take the East. They can be the number one team in the East. Warriors, we already know what that's about. The Clippers, right? Kawhi coming back. Paul George coming back. Looking to do some things this year. Kawhi, man, You got 2 chips, but you on the Clippers now. We gotta see you make some things happen. It's been a long time since we've seen Kawhi, really play some basketball on a game by game basis. None of that load management stuff now. We tired of that, man. We want to see you ball, Kawhi. You feel me? Come on now. All right, let's go a little bit down. Okay. And then The Athletic reported Monday that the Nets made it clear interested teams that they plan on keeping Kyrie Irving. The fact Durant is staying presumably puts to bed any further doubt regarding Kyrie Irving's status as well. Vincent Goodwill reported in July the NBA won't have a COVID-19 vaccine mandate, and with New York City no longer enforcing a mandate, Kyrie Irving will be available for all Brooklyn's games. Right? So y'all heard it. I'm reading it to you straight like that. Right? That the Nets are not looking for offers for Kyrie Irving. And there will be no vaccine mandate in the country or in New York City from here on out. So Kyrie Irving, you will have no more excuses. Your ass will be on the basketball court hooping. We don't want to see none of that. We want to see them handles. We want to see untucked jersey Kyrie. That's the type of Kyrie we want to see. Untucked jersey Kyrie. Come on, man. Y'all playing around. We put these odds in here, man. Put that in there for y'all. So yeah, man. So basically, what this is saying is that the Nets have no more further excuse besides injuries. And even with that, it's still inexcusable, because at the end of the day, if you don't win, you don't win. Drop that in there. 750. Right there. Nets 750 to win the title. Right? Man, I really love doing this. I really do. So let's scroll down a little bit, because I know there's a little bit more that I could probably tap into. All right, so Ben Simmons is a major wild card after not played for a full season. Simmons is theoretically the perfect complement to Durant and Irving on offense, and he can cover the deficiencies on defense until he returns to the court, though nobody can say for sure whether he's picked up from where he's left off for the 76ers. The same goes for TJ Warren, who missed all of 2021 to 2022 because of a stress factor in his foot. Can't Warren provide the same kind of scoring on the wing Brooklyn was sorely lacking in the 2022 playoffs? Right? So this story goes deep. It is deep, my friends. So it's not just a matter. So everything, all corners are covered. Kevin Durant is set to return. Kyrie Irving ain't got no more excuses. He ran out of sick days. No more sick days for Kyrie Irving. Ain't no more vacations, bro. Ben Simmons, right? Even though there's questions on his play, he is an X factor headed into the season. But he is still set to return, and his game complements both of these brothers on the court. He makes up for the things that these two guys do not have. And then on the last note, Brooklyn Nets have signed TJ Warren. It's been a minute since we've seen TJ Warren balling on the court. And for those who might not know who TJ Warren is, he's been a player who's been in the league for a long time. He's a very talented scorer. when it comes to, playing at the professional level. We've seen him drop 50 in the bubble, right? He played for teams like the Phoenix Suns, the Indiana Pacers. And so now he is playing for the Brooklyn Nets. And so we can only hope that a player like TJ Warren can be that sort of wing player that they need, right? So this concludes today's topic on basketball, right? Where we covered some good topics today. We talked about the Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant wanting to stay and Jayson Tatum's injury in the finals. So I am graciously humble and happy for those who tuned in. All right, so for anybody who did tune in, or if you watch after this episode has live streamed already, just to be clear, like and subscribe to the channel, please. I'm begging y'all. Nah, I'm not begging y'all, but it would be nice though. I'm not gonna beg. That'd be weird. But please like and subscribe to CashSports Podcast. And I know y'all see that Cash App at the bottom. If you guys would so graciously send a donation, it is optional. But being here with you, live streaming, having these conversations, talking sports, debating, having barbershop talks, this is my true passion. This is what I want to do. I just want you guys to tune in. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Because I'm here for it. So thank you once again. And this is another episode of